Hello again, Steve here with a few comments on why I think ill-gotten gains are so destructive to us, men and women, human beings, whatever you want to call the creature we call this humanoid walking around. And the reason, I think this is probably one of the roots, the roots, you might say, of the follies of socialism is that it's based on ill-gotten gain, right? This redistribution, this radical redistribution of resources. I was out on a run this morning and I was thinking about a few words that Owen Benjamin had said in an interview that he had recently. And he was talking about how he feels a lot of fulfillment in what he gets now out of what he does. In other words, he has this sense, and based on the feedback he gets, based on where he sees his life going, and all that, various different things, I guess, that what he's doing is the right thing to be doing for him. And therefore, the returns he gets on it, the money he gets from it or whatever, he feels a great level of fulfillment for it. He was contrasting that towards his earlier life where he would make a lot of money and he'd be, admired by these people who wanted something from him, man. Like they wanted... It's almost like, when somebody becomes really successful, all of a sudden people show up. And it seems like there's lots of friends all over the place. But they're not really friends because they want what you could create for them. And it has a way of really building an alter ego in oneself of self-importance or whatever. But ignored, it has this way of destroying the foundation of what we are. It's probably, a lot of that is probably behind the story of, the temptation of Christ right up on the mountain, and the devil comes along and says, I can give you everything, but it's like you kind of got to hand over your soul for that everything. And we see this in human beings, which is that no matter how much somebody has materially, if it's not backed up by internal fulfillment of sort of properly gotten gains, if you will, there's this downward spiral in so many other ways. You see so many people who are otherwise successful, supposedly, who are just torn apart inside. They're drug addicted and whatever. They're depressed and all kinds of things. And they're serial whatever, users of substances, sex, whatever it is, and very, very destructive. And I'm going to just give a couple of thoughts that I put forth a couple of thoughts and see what you think of this, which is that we human beings, we're animals for sure, right? I mean, we do everything that animals do. We eat, we procreate, and all that kind of thing. And we have a similar brain to what animals have, which is that we have instincts, we have inherent traits, a regulation of our bodily functions and all that sort of thing are all there. And from that animal side of things, I don't know if there's a very much of a concept of ill-gotten. It's like it's neutral gotten. Does a robin care about the earthworm that it's eating alive? Yeah, it doesn't. I just recently, I posted that little video, just the last one there, about the martins birdhouse. Okay, one of the problems that goes on with the martins birdhouse is you have all these sparrows who want to basically take over the martin house from the martins. And they start moving in, and there's, and if you get too many sparrows in there, then the martins won't move in because they won't fight back very well. Well, does the sparrow care really? If it's got to move into the martin's house and kick the martin out? It doesn't care, right? Because it's neutral. And this is what I think differentiates us from most of the rest of the animal world, or maybe all the rest of the animal world, is that we have this higher capacity to make decisions that would override our animal wants, either our instincts or a momentary gratification. We have a way of delaying that or postponing it or just ignoring it. And we can overcome that. And, but there are many people for whom how they get stuff doesn't seem to matter. I mean, a serial thief doesn't really care. It doesn't seem to care anyway that somebody's possible ethically gotten gain is now in his pocket. It's his ill-gotten gain. He doesn't seem to care about that. And it's the same in the animal world. They don't really care if they got to rob from something, from some other bird or some other animal or whatever to get what they get. But for those who rise into the human, this is why I've made the case before that, all humans are men, but not all men are human. And what I mean by that is, human is a being, right? So that if we were to find a being, an animal that lived far below the Earth's crust, that we could learn how to, that it was biologically completely different than us, but we could speak a language together, we could negotiate, we could reason together, and they were sort of equal intelligence, we'd have to ascribe the term human being to them. We'd have to. They're not man, but they're human being. And that's why I would say that not all men exhibit human traits all the time, and none of us exhibit it all the time. So the human part of us, a human is an adjective, right? It's a human being. The human part of us is the part that can reason, that can empathize, that can make the decision whether or not to act upon either the instinctual drive or the urge drive. A flock of birds flying north during migration, none of them in there think, oh, for a minute, I'm just going to reason to go over here for a while. No, they're running on an instinct. They're running on a program, right? Human beings have the ability to act in spite of the drive that's going on. And when we have this notion that that's somebody else's, but I'm going to take it anyway, if I know that, and I'm going to satisfy my desire for that, as an animal would do, and just do it anyway, and then I live with that conscience that I took something that was ill-gotten for me, then I set up this dissonance of personalities, if you will, like the animal personality and the human personality. They're not equating. And the more and more we do that, the more and more fuzzed it becomes, the more unreal we become, the more then we have to satiate ourselves with all sorts of drugs and distractions and addictions and all sorts of bling bling, look at me, how good I am, and all that kind of thing, because we're trying to cover up, we're trying to mask up this ever crying out little voice within, dissonance, 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 look out, right? However, the sense I got for what Owen Benjamin was talking about was, I was going to call him Benjamin Owen. It's one of those names that you go either way. Anyways, he was saying that now that he lives very much in accordance with what is right for him, so he's living off his conscience, he's allowing his human sense to dictate what he's going to do. As long as there's a win for that, the animal side's still fine with it, because remember, the animal side doesn't care where it gets the gain from. So there's no such thing as ill-gotten, it's just gotten, right? So if you can still gain coming from an ethical, conscience-based decision process, then the animal is still happy, and there's no dissonance then, right? And therefore there's a peace, there's a tranquility in there, a calm fulfillment in life, I would say. And I just wanted to share that because I think it's important if we strive for quality in life. Sure, we can have momentary titillation, but that's not long-term fulfillment. We can get, through voting for socialists, we can get this program and that program and so on enacted, and they'll steal from those people and give to us and everything else. But when we really start to consider it, it's as though we've just outsourced our thievery for us, right? In all those different forms. But when we live first from the conscience, like it's almost like a layered, multi-leveled system. The way we've developed is the reptilian brain and so on is kind of down in the back, and then the animal and the mammalian and so on. But the human part of us is kind of right up in front. And we got to be able to have a hierarchy of who has say, who has the final say. And if we remember that the animal part of us really doesn't care where it gets its gains from, well, then that's relieving, because now we can have gains that are equitable in the mind of the human sense part of us. Then we have this peace. We don't have this internal struggle that's going on of, I got it, but the human part of us is saying, yes, but I just know that ain't right because I stole it from somebody else, or I lied to somebody else, or I obfuscated, or I deplatformed, or whatever, And it's no surprise that you see on the left, I think, all this incredible dysfunction and unhappiness and so on, is because these are people who are torn. You can be sure, because if you advocate for thievery of any sort, then the human part of you is going to be crying out for justice. But what happens when we ignore it is it doesn't go away. It just cries louder. So we've got to put more and more and more and more. We've got to dogpile it more and more and more to try to silence it. But we don't silence it. And I think that's where the old story is. We go to hell, basically. We die in this torment. So it's something to think about, for sure. And there are improved ways that we can live, and I think it's living from the conscience first and foremost, and working on that. And just knowing that the animal side of us doesn't really care where we get our gains from. Steve here again. Great chatting. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. And please comment in the box below. Keep wanting to say mocks for some reason. Maybe I'll turn that into some kind of a meme someday. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.